Well, it shouldn't. I should be fine on the iPad.
Okay, we're officially live. So I'm here today with William Alexander, affectionately known as Wax. And I have a little surprise for you during our hangout. Oh, you pop it out a little bit. Anyway, you had some computer trouble, so you're having to do this on your iPad. So there will be points, I think, where you'll be like moving close to the screen. But on that note, just let me know what your goals were for this particular challenge.
Okay, hang on one second while I continue dealing with my technical challenges. The iPad just went on 10% power. Got to get it plugged in.
Oh, great. You have had a bunch of them, the problems today.
It has happened. It has happened every time.
And I like your rotating halo.
I don't do enough hangouts.
Yeah, so I like your rotating halo, the one above your head there.
That's hey. Cool. Okay, hold on a second.
Awesome.
All right. Hopefully the battery's charging.
So, tell me what you had decided to work on for this particular challenge. This is a New Works challenge, and I have you guys try and work on honing technique, honing craft, and also doing some unique stuff. So, what was your idea? I know what it is already, but I want it like caught on camera.
Well, there was really just a whole bunch of things. I mean, I started out initially with the reworking the three New Works, and then I did one, just one that kind of popped up at work, and then really kind of focused in on the scavenger hunt challenge is kind of fueling the development.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you actually contributed a few of those to this particular album, which I, mind you, saw only after I had already judged. Just want to make sure
just barely, but
people know. Yeah, just barely. I actually judged it that day, and you posted one of them. I was like, whoa. But we got it in. So your overall, I'm just going to go ahead and say it out loud because you had one goal that you wanted to complete in your time with me, and that was to better develop and harness your creative storytelling.
Yes.
And I will say, and everybody else is going to see this very soon as I show off your images, but I will say you have just nailed that one. It is amazing how well so much change, so much growth. And we're going to see some awesome images. Shall we just go ahead and show these off?
Sure.
Let's do that. All righty. Present. Okay. So okay. I have to say, because this is staying recorded and other people are going to watch it. I have to say that I have known Wax for quite some time, and I pulled up a little something for you, Wax. We met online a very long time ago, and this is one of our old threads. And here you are, and this is how you got the name Wax, right?
Yes.
It was your username on the Pixel Core forums, and this was an old thread called Avatar Meltdown. I think I had destroyed one of my avatars, and it was like an animated GIF or something like that. But there you are. This was back in 2005. And I am super, super happy and glad that I get to have you back in my life again because one, you were always fun and interesting, always had something intelligent to add to any conversation. And so now I get to see and watch you grow even more. I mean, you were always amazing back then. You could always just like do stuff. You are a carpenter by trade, or are you full on contractor?
All the above. I am.
All of you.
I'm technically a self-performing general contractor, except for the license, the mechanical trades, which I do minor stuff in.
Got it. Well, you're just amazingly able. And then just to see this little guy, so you kind of, what did it tell you to put these together, or did you just see it in your mind's eye and start tossing them onto the concrete in this way?
Oh, it originally.
Yeah.
It's one of the I don't know where this stuff comes from. I really don't. It was sitting there. The pieces were kind of like, hey, that kind of looks like the body of something or the head or whatever. They were just laying there, and I went, this
Fantastic.
okay. I'm going to run with it. So I
It
just
makes
put
me
them
grin like a
together.
loony. It just really is. And then you reworked. Originally posted in the cohort, and then you reworked it, and you really I got a super. I mean, it's a perfect edit. Really, it's just a fantastic job. This one just goes straight to the portfolio. This particular one, I would say, you need to work on, the sharpness
Yeah.
when, yeah, but it's a fabulous composition, of course. Definitely love this. I see the eagerness of Luna.
Yes.
This particular one, I think the only liabilities that we had with it was that some of this coloring that you really punched up that color to kind of make it
Hmm.
that sort of otherworldly look had been showing up also in the wood in the background. You did a really, really good job editing that out so that our feature story is the octopus. Fantastic. So one of the things that I love about you is that your eye, you really do capture these things that are, wow, I hadn't seen that. I really wouldn't have seen that. And you show it to us in photography. So this is a good strength for you to carry forward, to recognize that you have those muscles to really see the unusual. This particular one certainly certainly explains it.
If it's contrary, I tend to see it.
All this was an alteration of your point of view, right? And you got sad, bemused, I would say, and then this kind of happy guy. Wonderful guy, wonderful create here. Now, do you remember this thread that we had at the in the Pixel Core, that Just Smile one that I started?
Vaguely.
I used to get people to do these all the time. And this one is a really good exercise for anybody who's watching this video. And even for you, even though I don't think you really need it. But if you can see faces in things and you can just go around and shoot them, it actually, the exercise itself, you just go around, keep your camera ready, or even your iPhone is a good tool to use, and just go around and see if you can see how many faces you can find.
I see,
It's an
I see
incredibly good creative exercise.
I see faces in
And in
everything.
everything.
And they
Yes.
talk to
And
me.
they talk to the well, these certainly do. They talk to me. That's for sure. I actually heard that was a sign of intelligence. So there you go. Just another corroboration. Fantastic, fantastic vision on this particular one. Really, really love it. Also, wow. I would say both of these are definitely go directly. I mean, you can throw things like this in your portfolio too, but I don't know what your portfolio, you know, what you
Yeah.
want it to end up like. But this kind of thing, this to me is like a fine art image, and definitely a fine art type of thing, as well as this one.
Okay.
Superb vision and very, very clear idea coming across here. You said eerie cemetery fog as your main goal for this image, and definitely you nailed it. Plus, I love this color combination that you created. Now, was this when you were working on colors? Was this one of the ones that when you were kind of diving more into learning about the color wheel and
It
getting it more
was,
into your bones?
I think it was getting toward the tail end of it.
Yeah.
It was a cool overcast day. The sun had just popped out, and I'm flying down Highway 205 at when it's close to the speed limit as I could go, and it
Hmm.
just the fog and stuff rising out of the cemetery. I stopped, backed up, and just took this shot. And as I worked it, a lot of this, as I brought, intensified the fog and stuff and
Right.
pushed up back and that,
Wow.
the tree jumped out and it was kind of not quite red, but then the color thinking, the color theory thinking started to kick in that here's an avenue. I needed something to bring out the tree,
Hmm.
kind of make it the focal point, and then let everything else draw out. And yeah, it was kind of a journey more so than I just wanted to catch the fog, of
Right.
course, free, but everything else came afterwards.
Well, it really works. I mean, one of the aspects of color use is when you create a really tight color palette. It is one of the methods for really defining a story more, making a more clear idea. One of the biggest liabilities that people have when they shoot images is they end up with extraneous things that don't really contribute to the story, that non-supporting actor kind of concept. And making a tighter color palette really brings it all together and really helps pull your story together. Anyway, fantastic job with this. Oh my gosh. This is another portfolio image for sure. Absolutely. And its sister was there.
I'll even agree with those two.
Yeah. And I love this is a little surprise. This is what that aspect of surprise. Once you capture your viewer with a strong composition and a well edited, I mean, the tones on this are just perfect. You have a little bit of extra bonus gift for them if they linger a little bit longer. And now this was caught at the moment, or you added it? The little seagull here.
Can I plead the fifth, the Photoshop fifth?
No, yeah, you can. Oh, you totally can. Because honestly, to be that creative, you know, there is nothing wrong with it, right?
No,
right?
I know there's not, but you know, it's just there's people, you know. I don't necessarily all hang out with ultra creative people. I do hang out with my photo club, and they aren't necessarily
okay. We
all
won't
that open-minded.
we don't have to tell anybody. Okay, just don't show this video to your photo club, right? Anyway, fantastic and a very, very creative and excellent idea. Okay, so this is one of the ones I wanted to officially bring. We don't need all the info stuff, but okay, this was one of your scavenger hunt images, and I have to tell you, this was for the word pastel. And when I came across this in the album, I had no idea it was yours. I really didn't know, because I have several of the hunters. We call you guys hunters. I have several of the hunters in my foundation cohort. And so I say, you guys do not share before we're like fully, done with that particular hunt. And so I had actually just completed judging, and then you posted this. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to tell him. So one of the things that I love about this image is this little peekaboo area that you left in. Was this intentional? Did you like just open the curtain a little bit?
No, I actually, and it goes back to, this was one of the ones that I really had a question on, is that it seems to be lacking a little bit of something. And it just is. I made that in. It happened to be the way the things creased. And I opened it up to make it more, to add that little bit of interest, surprise, because it was kind of a little lacking in the story or whatever. The underlying concept, the abstract concept that was bouncing around in my mind wasn't quite getting out.
Okay, so and you still don't think that you've achieved that? You feel like there's something missing with it?
I'm not sure. How's that?
Okay, so that's because we were talking a little bit before we began. This is one of the things that I strive for as a mentor with you, particularly. I want to get you to the point where you are sure, because you are sure about your ability as a contractor, as a carpenter, as all of those things that you are able. You are a very able individual, and so I want to get you up to the point where you look at something and you go, "Damn, nailed it." Right? That's where I want you to be. So this is the reason why this one stood out to me, was because it does convey the concept of pastel, the use of the sheer curtain. But to add that little bit of extra surprise for the viewer that lingers, it takes a little bit more, it adds a little bit more to the image. So you're offering the viewer that little extra. So here we have essentially an abstract image. You can kind of get the hint of, when you're like way back, if I were to make this image really, really small in thumbnail, you just kind of get a hint of maybe a feel of houses. Yeah, but you wouldn't see it as houses.
Yeah, you get the outline. I do that a lot. I zoom out to 16 times, 8 times, kind of get a feel for the profile.
Yes, exactly.
To me, this speaks very strong architectural outline.
Right.
Just you know, and then as you zoom in, the pastels and the softness and this, abstractness comes into being.
Hmm.
And I guess what's, as far as my question is, it seeming like it could be more without that slit there. I mean, I thought I had it finished, and I went back, and I mean, I really worked this,
Mm.
hard from a lot of different different angles from beginning
Yeah.
to end. But it was just, it was like lacking something. So
Well,
I decided,
it's
so I
really
stumbled upon the slit, but I guess that sense of it needing or could be more didn't disappear just by putting the slit in.
it,
How's that?
see, and that was brilliant because adding more would have been giving away too much information.
Mm-hmm.
So you're
Okay.
what you're doing is you're kind of asking the viewer to contribute a bit to the image by making him come in further and find out what that devices that you've used there to get them to sneak a peek into that one little area. You get the
Mm-hmm.
idea? And the more you can
Yeah.
get your viewer to contribute to your image in whatever fashion, even if it's just oh, wow, this is awesome. I don't know why I like it. Uh, but
Yeah.
whenever you can get them to linger longer and spend a little bit more time, they're actually participating, and that's the point where it becomes art. So this one's fantastic. It really is an excellent image. Take it directly into your portfolio. Very well done
Hey,
on this. Oh, also a couple more abstracts that I just adore. These I'll ask you if you have any questions about them, but you shouldn't because they're fantastic.
yeah. I'm not, well, okay. I mean, they're good. I like them for exactly what they are. And
Good.
if I and I'd have a hard time choosing one above the other.
I don't know that you need to. In fact, I think it would be an excellent beginning for a series.
Oh,
So here's the
yes.
thing, and this is, I don't know.
And these are everywhere down here.
Yeah, I don't know if you're looking to move forward and say eventually have a gallery show your work, but if
Oh,
you are,
that'd be like really cool.
series are something that they definitely ask for. They want to see a contiguous body of work. All right, it's kind of
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure what that underlying core aspect of it is. I think it has to do with being able to perpetuate a passion, and this becomes more visible when somebody has a contiguous body of work.
Okay.
In other words, they're showing this particular idea over and over and over and over again until other people can see it more easily, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, fantastic, goes directly into the portfolio. This one as well. The one thing I think that could benefit from is, I'm not sure if you noticed this little bit of a line over here. You see that? That could go. And this part here, this
Yeah.
stuff at the bottom really doesn't need to be here. The strength of this particular image is the strong L composition. So
Okay.
when you have an L, you really want the most of your action to be on this side of the L, and on the outside of the L, you want to kind of remove some of these little distracting elements. So get rid of that little white area there. I would say take a look to this edge right here. It was a post or a pole or something.
Yeah.
You can pull that one out of there, and then probably snip off this edge or clone it out if you don't want
Yeah.
to ruin your aspect ratio.
Wow.
Um, and
I
then that
just
one is portfolio radio.
it's one of those, in full disclosures, I
Uh-huh.
just did it for fun.
Yeah.
I
See,
just thought it was so cool to have the sushi museum, and it looked right, and I processed it.
yeah.
And this is when I had my dad's Argus C4 with the black and white in it,
Oh,
testing it
right.
against my FG20 with color in the digital, and I just couldn't wait. So I processed this and just
Right.
I didn't even, yeah, honestly, I didn't even think about looking at the edges.
Oh, I see. Okay. And
and
then
I
you've
haven't and
created
I haven't and I it just never jumped out.
and you've created the official sushi museum.
Yes, I like
And I
that.
don't
Not
know
that I
whether
love
you noticed,
sushi,
but
but
you've got if this area is nearby, you've got more of that particular this kind of multiples of lines
mm-hmm.
also on that wall itself. So I don't know how big
So
the image
so
is, if you've got enough
so
pixels
so
or anything.
so oh, this is great. So basically, I can thumb my nose at everybody that just as soon as there's an electric line or a power line or a
Yes.
telephone line
Yeah.
in an image, they turn it off. I can thumb my nose at them.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Say it's art. Call it art. Call it art.
Yes.
All right. The egret perch in the pouring rain, fantastic. I really, really love that it's actually a little bit blurry. It's not like super, super sharp. It's excellent. Goes directly to the portfolio. This particular one, you said, go ahead and you can just tell me about how you went about doing it because I love it, and I go through your imagery and go, I love it, I love it, I love it. But I would like to give you a chance to talk a little bit. Tell me about your goal for this particular one and what you did to create it.
Well, I, I was replacing. This is a door that I was replacing that
Mm-hmm.
had the fill and stuff and rotten out. It's a steel door, but because it's slab on grade, exposed to the outside, that's where we get all the mud and muck on the left hand side. But the the light shining in the contrast just was so pronounced, and just so interesting against the floor. I went and got the camera and took the picture.
Okay, and so in post, now did you do a bit of distort on it or anything?
Yeah, well, I took some of the lens distortion out because I'm pretty sure that was the 14 mil. That was like 14 millimeter.
Yeah.
I was kind of zoomed in a little bit. Yeah, I kind of squared it up. There was a little bit of squaring up the aspect ratio to get the true diagonal all the way across.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, processing the darks so that they come light,
Right.
and pushing everything around, adding
Right.
some grit and
And
texture
then wasn't
in.
the hammer in another place or in another?
No, that the hammer, it was actually right there. It's just that
Oh, okay.
in the distortion of squaring it up, but
Ah,
making it a 45 degree, the hammer distorted. It got really tall
I see. So you
and,
added it.
and distorted. So I went back to the original and brought it in
Fantastic.
normal, undistorted, and then cloned and copied around it.
I
And
mean, it's
and
so
I think
perfect.
I also did a what's the deal with when you the blur average or the color average,
Right.
and use that to really unify the colors in there, because
Excellent.
there's white paint, there's black paint, there's green, all sorts of stuff. So
Yeah. Um, so I love the fact that this hammer is just kind of snuck in here. Kind of, you wouldn't notice it off the bat. First thing you would notice is the strong diagonal composition. And then to see, the little extra detail there, it was just, again, you're very clever. You have the imagination. And I just saw over the time stronger and stronger and stronger stories from you, which was your goal.
mm-hmm.
So this particular one now, you're starting to move into the area of working on illustrations out of architectural details, right?
Yeah, something like something that has that illustrative flavor, but yet it's sort of Photoshop, the in between photorealism and
Awesome.
in the truly hand rendered architectural rendering type thing.
Got it. Well, this one works really, really well. You did a great job with it. This particular one, you're also kind of going for that same kind of illustrative feel.
Well, this one was it's such an interesting. I mean, this just to me, this is all about the architectural detail. It has to me, a real German influence in terms of its strengths,
Mhm.
real geometric. And then if you look real close, you got the stormtrooper sitting up in the window,
I
watching
did. I
over
saw
it.
that. And I was hoping you didn't mention it so I could say, and yeah, and it's going to
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, 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 no. It's totally okay. Totally okay.
Yeah, but
So, it looks as though you tried to go a little bit to that, adding a little bit more of an illustrative feel to it. Am I incorrect in my estimation there?
I pushed the colors up.
You did just
Um,
push the colors up. Okay.
yeah, that's one of the elements that I really like about just things in general is that full, rich, deep, illustrated type color. That's
Right.
how my mind remembers things.
Right. Okay.
And so I pushed the colors in that direction, but I didn't
Okay.
do any highlighting.
Because I think this
In
one would
that sense.
actually lend itself well to going with your
Yes.
kind of illustration idea, to use it as a base. One of the things that I would definitely recommend is to, you go around edges, make sure you do your edge patrol.
Yeah.
You see the white thing here, and then um,
Oh,
one
yeah.
one characteristic, and this is going to help you because I know that's one of your adventures is to do a little bit more of that kind of illustrative kind of idea, is to take a look at one of the aspects of illustration is that they don't often perfectly render the way the world actually is. So, for example,
Correct.
it's kind of obvious based on the cant of either side that this was, shot from below. The perspective is a little bit off. So, if you were to take, well, sorry, my magic mouse just loves to do that. Let's take it all the way back to normal. Okay, so is to
It does.
make it more square, but
I did
still
that.
have these. What's that?
I did that, and what
Yeah.
happened? And what happened was is it looked really distorted.
Oh,
The perspectives and the returns on the eaves and stuff
yeah.
looked really off
Yeah.
when I straightened everything up.
Right. I know. I know. I understand that. I wasn't referring to the photographic representation. I'm referring if you were to try this out as one of
Oh,
your
okay.
bases for the illustration thing is to go for the square. You are a little bit out of, and I hate to say this, but you're a little bit out of plumb here. It's a lot higher up on this side than the other, but that's just nitpicky stuff because I think if you had decided to take this to like a portfolio work, you would have, gone that
Oh,
little extra mile and noticed those little, the little extra things. Anyway, I really only wanted to give you that little bit idea
yeah. Oh,
in
thank you.
terms of the illustration work that you want to do
Yeah.
down the road. All
Yeah.
right.
That definitely would lend it to that. Yes.
All right. Another excellent. I want to get to I have to show people really like what this is what you gave me. It's just there's just so much awesome here. I'm actually going to skip forward. This was one of your hunt images. Another one that got awarded. I think I gave it a honorable mention as well, or I can't
Yeah. I
remember
think.
what. But I
Yeah.
know you
I
got
believe.
awards for your
Yeah.
hunt
I believe
images.
it was you and Ron Clifford.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And this particular one, this one got an honorable mention too. And I didn't even know it was yours. It was fantastic, fantastic. This was for the word vintage. Just all the perfect little details that you found. This is the one that I actually brought into Photoshop because we had a conversation on it in the cohort, but I didn't know
Yes.
whether you had seen my comment there. So there are a few things that I would just want to mention because I know that compositing is one of those things that you'll probably do more of down the road because you have fun with it and you have great ideas. So I have to actually sneak back to Chrome really quick because I brought it out so we could see. So these were the two base images that you did. This one was shot with a wide angle lens,
Yep.
and
Yep.
it's on the side, or is it on the top area of something? I think it's on the top area. It must be on the top area because
This is it's a beam. It's a
yeah.
concrete beam
Okay.
underneath a bridge.
Okay. Okay. Totally got that. Um, oh, so you're looking up? No, you can't be looking up. There's things
No,
on.
I was kind of like right. It's this is where the bridge starts and
Uh-huh.
then continues out. So I mean, I was pretty much head on to it as squared up to it as I could get
And above it.
on the hill. I mean, I actually
Get it.
prior to taking this actually took a little slide down the hill trying to save my camera.
Oh,
Um,
oh.
so I mean, it took a little bit, but the idea was to try to get it as square on as I could from my vantage point and still get a decent shot.
Totally
Get
got it. And then
the
this is your
curvy.
base. This was your base image. All right.
Mhm.
So I'm going to go back into Photoshop. So a few suggestions for you is to while you've got the character of the day right, I'm the day that it was shot in was a cloud covered day. I can tell by the reflections on the Explore
Mm-hmm.
graffiti. I can tell that it wasn't super strong lighting that day, but it wasn't the same. And the other
No,
factor,
no, they're actually they were taken within minutes of each other. Um,
right,
but one was facing north and one was facing south.
right.
So the
Um,
lighting's off a little bit.
and clouds move and they
Mm-hmm.
change in terms of how much light there is. And the other thing is that you're looking down on this one, which is going to make it brighter than this scene here.
Okay.
So one of the things that I recommend is hello, wake up. Yeah, here we go. Did it come? Did it pop in? It's not coming in. There we go. Okay. So a little bit of lighting change to just kind of connect it with the scene a little bit more.
Okay.
This kind of area would be a little bit more occluded from the light where it folds.
Right.
You see that fold in there. The other
Yep.
idea was, and here's the thing is, I would love for you when you do your composites to get a little bit more intimately involved. I know this was just a study for you. It was like a really like cool idea. But this is part of the Robin wants to empower wax kind of viewpoint.
Okay.
That you get a little bit more intimately involved in your composites and really see if you can blow our minds. So already you blow our minds with the idea. The idea alone is spectacular. It really is spectacular. I think it is just crazy awesome that you thought to do this in the first place. Okay. So to be a little bit more intimately involved, then you have to start thinking about where this thing is, this new thing is in the scene. So one of the things is I did is kind of took some of the light away from this folded area here because this really would have been included. And then you think about these trees on the outer sides of it might occlude some of the light on the sides as well. So I left a little
Mm-hmm.
bit in the center. Also, it wouldn't be quite as bright with the kind of lighting that you have in your base scene as it would in its original. It wouldn't, the colors wouldn't show up as fully. When the way you had shot it, it was the light was up right up overhead, right? So all of those
Mm-hmm.
colors would be fully um, oh God, where is my mind today? I can't come up with the words that I need, but you get the idea that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Full
Oh,
saturation. That's what I'm talking about.
I,
Okay.
yeah.
So,
I
and then you think
I
about the environment, okay, and how it's living in that area for quite some time. And I did this really quick, mind you. Okay, so it's not like the best rust in the world,
mm-hmm.
but these pock marks and whatever, anything that gets it a little bit more situated, so it's a little more realistic that it would have been there in the first place. And the other thing, and this was the thing that I kind of dunned you for in the cohort because you're a 3D man too, right? You know how to work in 3D, is to give it a little bit more of an edge. And again, these are very quickly done. So I kind of, I'm just sort of turning them on and off so you can, why is my Photoshop so slow? Anyways, you could just get that idea. You want just a really subtle feel. Wake up. There we
Yeah.
go. Okay. So just a little bit of an
This is
edge, right?
yeah.
The mask that you made on the graffiti is a little soft. But to really pull off that idea that you've got this piece of metal in here, sort of
Yeah.
blocking the way the water flows, etc. You need to give it a little bit of depth. But and again, this is the kind of thing that I know if you spend a little bit more time with and get a little bit more intimate with your subjects, with your actors here, I think you'll come up with it because I know how your brain works already. You're
Yeah,
you're very clever.
I'm probably three-quarters of the way there already.
Yes,
This has been my sitting in front of the TV with the laptop and
fun.
play with,
I'm so
so I'm
glad. I'm glad you do that.
all the all the stuff that you're bringing up is like yep, been there,
Okay.
not sure, but
Okay.
it's
All
still
right. And so these are just color, you were working on color and working on those color harmonies.
mhm.
This one's fantastic. Want it to go directly into the portfolio.
Oh man, you're
Um,
not gonna get medieval on it.
you want me to get medieval on it?
Art director medieval. It's
No,
okay.
For me, it's just really a classic, kind of a classic. Has that you were working on product photography for a while, so the thing that
Yes,
you
it
brought
was.
into this image was that understanding of lighting that you developed during that time,
Yes, very
right?
much so.
Excellent. This one, I think, feel definitely needs to go with your other tree image if you want to start really actually working on a portfolio um, to kind of bring some ideas together. Another excellent job. And this one, I told you I heard angels singing when I came
It,
upon this one.
you're not, it, see, that seems to be a pretty fairly consistent comment. It happens
It
quite a bit.
is brilliant. It is just so brilliant. And the name of the toilet company is not Salvation, right?
No, no, I don't even
I
remember what
just
it was, but I had to do it.
this is the kind of brilliance, and I don't know whether you're going to want to go into like the more serious, fine art kind of work, or this kind of thing where you really just make this is a crowd pleaser
Yeah,
because anybody who comes on this is going to understand this feeling that
and if
you're out in nowhere,
yeah,
there's no restrooms anywhere, and you see this, and it's
yeah.
gleaming, right?
And, and if they say they don't, they're lying.
Exactly. We all know this feeling. It's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So somewhere in the portfolio has to go the things that are going to
I'll have to
make
have like
people laugh.
a closet.
Right. Okay, so these are part of your illustration kind of concept, and this is really kind of the last thing that you've been working on is really honing your skills at creating illustrations in Photoshop. So, did you try some of those techniques that we talked that I pointed out to you
With the blue bonnets, yes.
with the blue bonnets?
The yes, the
Okay,
flower itself, it was just more just that soft, borderline on botanical sort of
right.
uh, illustration pose. But I mean, this just turned out so well. Just softened it a little bit, and boom, it worked. Put the frame around it, and
And
I just
and tell me what color harmony is here, because you know these now.
yeah. Well, we got yellow, the purplish, the green, and that would be a what
Okay, so I tell you guys you don't have to
the
memorize them. So I
it'd be
don't
the three-way, the try or
the split
split. Yeah,
complementary. Yeah, I tell you guys you don't have to memorize them because honestly, you can just keep a color wheel in your pocket and or on your phone or whatever,
I
and
have
you
it on
don't
my
have to
phone.
memorize them.
I have it
But the
on my
fact that
phone.
you have this feel for it and you get the idea now, this is a really fantastic color combination, and it's a very cohesive image. So your work with color that you did a lot of really turned out well, and it's serving you very well. Did you have any questions on some of those techniques that we talked about?
It just they all make sense. I need to work with them and just not be afraid. The hardest thing to do is to just be, especially coming from the 3D CG sort of
Right.
world, you want to save all the data you can in your image or what you're rendering because that's where the realism comes from.
Hmm.
And the photography thing is really just the opposite. You want to get rid of as much as you can, especially if you're playing with abstracts and messages. You simplify it's kind of an opposing force. It takes a little getting used to, but the techniques and what little I've played with them since that is, it really, I can see many more ways to isolate and bring stuff out and do the things that I think need to be done.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to just drag this one into
Oh, cool.
Photoshop, and we're going to just go through those. Some of the things that we talked about. So, um, so one of the aspects of illustration that you identified, you mentioned in your post, was that kind of simplification of color. And so we talked about using the posterize
Mm-hmm.
adjustment layer. Now, I have used this before in creating illustrations, and it is sometimes a matter of identifying what things you'd like to keep in this particular adjustment and what things you would like to, uh, alter. So when we talk about when we like start bumping up levels, this just does nothing. Okay, so the levels are really down here in the lower areas, and so you look at this and you can say, well, okay, I would really like to keep those magentas. And periodically, I will go through this type of thing, and I'll create a stamp all layer. I'm just going to do that really quick, and if I turn that off, I could say keep that. And then I go back to this and then I can bump it up to say 5 and say, I prefer like say the greens and the yellows in this particular one, if that makes sense to you. And so I would
Mm-hmm.
go ahead and do a stamp all again, and then decide that I want to keep that. I'm going to go ahead and put a mask on this, and I inverted. So you push the Alt or Option button while you click on the mask icon. And then so we've inverted that. I have to turn that off. And then you can see with the brush, I'm going to go ahead and add 100% so you can get an idea of what's happening. I can just kind of selectively bring some of that in. Okay. You can also reduce,
Yeah.
Who's that? So I'm going to do the
It's the evil UPS man.
Oh, the evil UPS. So I'm going to do this with this one. And then we're going to just bring little bits of it in. Oh, actually, that's probably a little bit strong, but you get the idea of it. So I'm going to reduce the opacity on it. And you can see how I'm just bringing little bits, depending on how much of that kind of illustrative feel you want. Now I've got the opacity down to 20%, and now you get the idea. It definitely has more of an illustration feel to it.
Okay.
And so with
Yes,
just a tiny bit of adding in, brushing in here and there, that kind of thing, you're getting more of that less photographic and more illustrative sort of feel to it. All right. So that was posterize. Put that in a group, turn that off. And then I wanted to show you that it's a really old Photoshop technique. You basically duplicate your main layer, and then you have to turn it to grayscale. So I'm just going to go ahead and rasterize this because I don't care about that. And it would be up here, image adjustments here. Okay, so I do Command Shift U, I think, as my complete desaturate. So I think I created that shortcut, so I don't want it, but you could just click on desaturate. That's the particular one. So Command Shift U, and I've desaturated it completely. Then you copy it again, Command or Control J, and then you Command or Control I to invert it. And then you set it to, and there's several different ways you can do this. You can do like color dodge, linear dodge. The reason why there are several methods to do it is sometimes when you hit color dodge, you still see some of the thing left. And what you want is to have this, after doing this technique, you want it to see perfectly white. Okay. And then basically what you do is any kind of filter that alters the pixels just a tiny bit, and we're going to use the standard is Gaussian blur, but you can use like high pass or whatever, anything that alters just a tiny bit. You start to see this idea, this illustration idea, and this is a lot of people recognize this when they do find edges. And that's kind of the same thing, only you have so much more control. So I usually put a pretty low radius on this. And now you can see we actually have those sketching outlines. Click OK.
Yes.
And then I'm going to do the stamp all thing. So I've got it all merged on one particular layout. I don't need these anymore. And see what happens when, okay, I'm going to shut it off. And you get the original image, and we put it to multiply. And now you've got more lines. And you can copy this Command or Control J several times, and you see these lines start popping up again. and look at what's happening now. It's a little bit different than find edges. Um, you can get a little bit too much of that kind of textury stuff. And if I turn all of this off for a second, you can actually come in here and use your dodge tool. If I set this back to normal and I go to my dodge tool, you can actually just start and get rid of some of this stuff. Or, as you well know, you can use levels.
Yeah.
I did curves.
My favorite tool.
Remember levels? We use levels for everything. What am I doing? I'm clicking on the wrong things here. Let's try this one more time. And there it is. Okay. So you can also try levels on it. You may end up just taking away a little too much detail. So it really, really depends on what it is you want to keep, you want to get rid of. And this is up to you experimental wise. Okay. Mm-hmm. But you can really just work the outlines. I'm just going in. Actually, should have had my brush set pressure sensitive, but I didn't. But anyway, you get the idea. Okay, yeah. So now we've created all of these lines that are outlining. Now, here's the fun thing with this is I've just turned this particular one on again, and I'm going to go ahead and drop an inverted mask on it. Hold down the Alt key, Alt or Option. And I'm just going to go ahead and start bringing it back in. We're going to need, a brush tool. And I'm going to set it to, say, 40%. That's my favorite. Hit the 4 key. No, whatever. That's my favorite number to use for the brush tools, of my favorite opacity when I want a low opacity. 50% almost is just too much, but 40% seems to allow me to kind of gradually bring in some things. So I'm just going to kind of hit around a few areas. And what you get with this particular technique is you can get it really strong in some areas. Have that. That's what I want to turn off that levels for a minute. So you can start getting it really, really super duper strong in some areas. And this has a little bit more of that feel of an illustration. Hello.
Well, yeah, it really it gives you the power to bring things forward and push things to the back to give it the true conical type feel in the flower.
Right. It's what I'm trying to describe to you is the feeling of the pressure of a pencil, mm-hmm. or an ink pen. When an illustrator is illustrating, they don't always have a consistent pressure. And that's when you apply that mask, when you just mask some of it in, you get a little bit of pressure areas. The other thing, I'm going to just duplicate this layer. And I'm going to turn off that mask for a second. I'm just going to merge it. So we have one layer. And the thing that you can do if we go to Filter, Liquify. Now, remember, cancel. We want it set to multiply. So we don't want all of that white showing. So we go to Filter, Liquify. And you can see you can just kind of start, whoops, that's a little bit too much. Let's hold down the Alt key, reset. So I'm going to turn that pressure way down. And really all I just want to do is mess it up a little bit. So lower the pressure, lower the density. Let's get this. Yeah, okay. So here is all I'm doing. And this is going to give you some just slight changes in the line. And if I had more time to spend, to really, really like dive in and show you all of these things, what I'm doing here is I'm hoping that your mind is going to take over.
Okay.
But okay, so when I turn that on and off, I'm not sure if you can see what's happening. Let's set this. It is set to normal. Okay. I was kind of hoping. Oh, okay. Maybe I'll turn that one on. So now you can see just a slight alteration of lines that I did. And if I go ahead and I'm going to turn this mask back on, you can see what's happening is you get a little bit thicker, thinner, those kinds mm-hmm. of things. And that's the kind of idea I'm trying to encourage you to take a look to when you look at illustrations and really identify what makes an illustration look like an illustration as opposed to um, filters,
a mechanical, yeah,
as opposed to
yeah,
filters in photo. Yes, you got the
yeah,
idea. All right.
yeah,
And I think the other thing that I had showed you along with the posterized was that, whoops, let's turn this guy off, was that threshold. And threshold is something that you could use to allow yourself a little bit more, I'd say that kind of block look with the tonal values. And so if I set this to overlay, you see what's happening here. And again, always, these are things that I mask in. I reduce the opacity on it. So I'm just bringing in a little bit, and it's not completely, you know, Photoshoppy, plugin-y kind of thing.
right,
Even better if you go ahead and invert it, and then with your brush and really, really, really super low opacity, let's go to 10%, and just you see, it's so super, super subtle, right? But
yeah, but it makes a big
it
difference.
makes a huge difference in those tonal variations. And that's what you're trying to do. And when you're trying to achieve that kind of painterly kind of feel, because paint is never spot on. It's always, either highly controlled by the artist or it isn't controlled. And that's what gives illustrations one
That
of their pleasing
that
characteristics.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just abstract enough that your mind fills in the details without having to fill in the details.
You got it. You totally got it. You totally got it. Excellent. So awesome. I hope that gave you some fun tools to play with. I'm going to head back over to you. And I think, unless you have any questions on any of these that I zipped past, um, otherwise we're just going to enjoy them as they go by. You're just so clever. This was your color study, and it's just like a super fun image all on its own. Really, I've just absolutely, I can't tell you, this has been a thrill for me, your journey through this particular level. Oh my gosh, this one. I feel like I've got, like, the battle cruiser coming over the top. Is that the feel
it,
that you were trying to give for this particular one?
I was trying to figure out how to get the Death Star in there so that the cruiser
Yeah,
could crash into it and blow it
thank
up.
you. Okay, and you nailed it. You totally nailed it,
That
because
was you know,
that's what I
and
see.
I felt like I felt like I was being held captive on the ship. So I'm going freedom.
What your sense of humor is just absolutely fantastic. Your ideas of how to convey an abstract and these tight color palettes that you're working with are just fantastic. There's just so much, so much, so much growth. This is brilliant. This is just brilliant. This is just leftovers from cabinetry you were working on, or was it a chair, or what was it?
It was just a frame for around a mirror. I
Got it.
mean, it just basically dated out pieces and scraps, and I had to do something. It's just a weekly commitment I made to myself, but it's in the photo club, and it was just, it's the Arthur Wesley Dow lines sort of thing, and I put these pieces together because it was kind of cool, and then I'm going, wow, this is kind of neat. So I evened it up and I went, okay, here's what you would, here's, the top part is what you would, the finished product that everybody'd see and go, oh, that's so beautiful. And I
Right.
get in all the pieces I see at the bottom, how the reality of what it was.
Right, right,
That's
right.
what,
I totally got it. It's just,
whether you read it that way or not, but it works on different levels. I just
oh,
thought that was cool.
I totally got that. I totally got that. Like, it's like the reveal,
Yeah.
right? Because this upper part, just as an image alone, it's like, okay, I get it. It's these lines and these shapes and these forms, and then you get it down here, and it's like, oh, that's what it is. It's just fantastic. Your idea to do it this way, and plus you're self-employed, so you don't have to explain to the boss what you're doing on the ground, right?
Yeah.
All right. You'll let me know, right, if you have any questions, if there's anything that I missed. I can always certainly explain things to you in the cohort. Fantastic. Can I come back now?
Yeah.
fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. It's just applause, 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 applause. All right. So, on that note, thank you so much for showing off all of your fantastic, for making us laugh, for making us smile, for making us ooh and ah. And for now, you can say bye bye to the folks, but you hang on the line because I'm going to chat with you a little bit
Yes.
afterwards. Okay.
Bye.